He sat alone at the corner table, staring at the flickering candle, as if it held all the answers he'd been searching for. The restaurant around him buzzed with laughter, the clinking of glasses, and the warmth of couples leaning close, lost in conversation. Yet for him, time had slowed to a cruel crawl. The empty chair across from him was a silent reminder of his loneliness. His watch ticked louder with every passing minute. 30 minutes late, 40, an hour. His smile had faded into something between embarrassment and heartbreak. People had started to notice. The servers whispering, a couple of teenagers smirking softly, the host giving him that pitying look that said, "She's not coming." If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the beauty of unexpected moments, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Because sometimes, the most touching stories are the ones that happen when we least expect them. Ethan had never been the type to go on blind dates. After his last relationship ended in a quiet storm of misunderstandings, he'd sworn off dating for good. But his sister, Rachel, had insisted. "You can't keep hiding behind your work forever," she told him, pushing him to meet someone she'd met through a friend of a friend. "She's sweet, funny, and just your type," Rachel had promised. Ethan had resisted for weeks until one lonely evening, sitting in his dim apartment with nothing but the hum of the fridge for company, he'd finally agreed. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was the quiet ache of wanting to feel something again. He'd chosen a small Italian restaurant downtown, warm lights, soft music, the kind of place that made conversation easy. He arrived early, too early, rehearsing possible topics in his head and nervously adjusting his jacket. But as minutes turned into an hour, his optimism crumbled. He checked his phone again. No message, no missed call, just silence. He tried to tell himself maybe she got stuck in traffic, maybe she changed her mind, or maybe something happened. But as he looked at the couple sitting across from him laughing together, he felt foolish for even hoping. For a moment, he thought about just leaving, paying for his untouched drink and walking out. But something in him refused to move. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was the desperate hope that she'd still walk through that door. Just as he picked up his coat to leave, a small, timid voice interrupted his thoughts. "Excuse me, sir?" Ethan turned around to see a little girl, maybe 6 or 7, standing beside his table, holding a small stuffed rabbit. Her dark curls framed her innocent face, and her big hazel eyes looked up at him with sincerity. "My mommy's sorry she's late." For a second, Ethan blinked, confused. The little girl handed him a folded napkin. "She told me to give you this." And just as quickly, she turned and hurried toward the restaurant's entrance. Ethan unfolded the napkin, and his heart stilled when he read the note written in a rushed, shaky hand. "Ethan, I'm so sorry. Please don't leave yet. I'll be there soon. I promise. Lily." Lily. That was her name. The woman he'd been waiting for. Moments later, the restaurant door opened again, and a woman walked in. Hair slightly messy, cheeks flushed, eyes apologetic yet full of warmth. She spotted him immediately, her breath catching as she hurried over. "I'm so sorry," she said softly, standing before him. "My babysitter canceled last minute, and I had to bring my daughter with me. I didn't want to make you wait so long." Ethan stared at her, caught off guard not just by her beauty but by the kindness in her voice. There was something genuine about her presence, something real, fragile, and human. He smiled faintly and gestured toward the seat. "It's okay. I'm just glad you're here." Lily smiled, visibly relieved, and motioned for her daughter to join them. The little girl climbed onto a chair beside her mother, clutching her rabbit like a secret treasure. "This is Emma," Lily said softly. "She's my whole world." As the evening unfolded, what began as an awkward situation turned into something unexpectedly beautiful. Lily spoke about her life, how she'd been raising Emma on her own after her husband passed away 3 years ago. She worked 2 jobs trying to balance being a mother and keeping her small world together. Ethan listened, not out of politeness, but because every word she spoke carried the quiet courage of someone who had weathered too many storms and still found reasons to smile. He found himself telling her things he hadn't shared with anyone in years. How he'd buried himself in work after losing his father, how he'd pushed people away because it felt safer than being hurt again. They talked until the restaurant was nearly empty, laughter and soft confessions filling the quiet corners around them. Emma eventually fell asleep in her chair, her tiny head resting on Lily's lap, and in that moment, Ethan saw something he hadn't seen in years, a glimpse of what peace might look like. As they stood outside afterward, the cold night air wrapping around them, Lily smiled shyly. "I'm really sorry again for being late," she said. "I thought you'd leave." Ethan looked at her for a long moment, then said gently, "I almost did, but I'm glad I didn't." That night, as he watched her drive away, he realized something had shifted inside him. It wasn't just about attraction, it was about connection, the kind that doesn't come often, the kind that finds you when you've stopped looking. Days turned into weeks, and their paths kept crossing. They started with coffee dates, small walks in the park, and evenings where Emma tagged along holding both their hands. Ethan found himself caring, not just for Lily, but for the little girl who had walked up to him that night and unknowingly changed his life. Emma adored him too. She'd draw pictures of Mommy and Ethan and stick them on Lily's fridge with bright magnets. One evening, while they were at the park, Lily looked at him with quiet emotion in her eyes. "I didn't think I'd ever trust anyone again," she confessed. "But you make me feel like I can." Ethan didn't say much. He simply took her hand, and in that moment, no words were needed. But life has a way of testing hearts that have just begun to heal. A few months later, Lily received a letter from her late husband's parents. They were moving states and wanted to take Emma with them for a while. It wasn't malicious, just complicated. They missed their granddaughter deeply, and though Lily wanted to say no, she knew Emma loved them too. It tore her apart. She turned to Ethan, unsure what to do. "I can't lose her," she whispered one night, tears glistening in her eyes. "But I also can't deny her the family she has left." Ethan wrapped her in his arms, whispering, "You won't lose her, and I'm not going anywhere." Those weeks were hard. Lily struggled to smile, missing her daughter's laughter echoing through the apartment. Ethan became her quiet strength, bringing her dinner, sitting with her when she couldn't sleep, reminding her that love wasn't about holding on tightly, but standing steady through the storm. When Emma returned a month later, she ran straight into Ethan's arms. "I missed you," she squealed, and Lily's tears finally spilled over, not from pain this time, but from gratitude. That evening, as they all sat together on the couch watching a movie, Ethan realized how something so fragile could become the center of his world. What began as a night of disappointment had turned into the beginning of something extraordinary, a love built on understanding, patience, and second chances. Years later, at that same restaurant where it all began, Ethan waited again, but this time, he wasn't alone. Emma, now a bright teenager, sat beside him, helping him adjust his tie. "You nervous?" she teased with a grin. Ethan laughed, a little. Moments later, the music changed, and Lily walked in wearing a soft cream dress, her eyes shimmering with tears as she saw him. The little girl who once delivered a note now stood as her mother's bridesmaid, smiling through happy tears. As Lily reached him, Ethan took her hands and whispered, "You were late that night, but you were right on time for my heart." And in that moment, surrounded by the people who had taught him that love sometimes arrives through the smallest miracles, a note, a child, a second chance, Ethan knew that waiting had been worth it. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share it with someone who still believes in love after loss, in hope after heartbreak, and in the magic of second chances. Tell us in the comments, do you believe love can find you when you least expect it? Your words might inspire someone who needs to hear them today, because sometimes the most beautiful stories begin with a delay, a single act of kindness, and the courage to stay just a little longer.